with the Learning Zone monthly guest speaker project. So I'm Dr. Anthony Basil, and I'm the head of School for Computing. We want to welcome you all for our session, our monthly session. We do this the last Friday of every month. We want to encourage people to bring their friends, bring their associates, their colleagues, any people that are in your network. We're trying to develop and grow our professional and social learning network through this opportunity with this. And each month there's different topics, and Mike will be going into his topic in a moment. But what we're going to ask people to do is to get your smartphones out, please. Take out your smartphones for us, because we have a special prize that someone will win. And I hope that we have people from last month joining us, because we've got a prize winner that we'll announce at the very end, our secret mystery prize. For this event, if you take your smartphone out and scan that QR code, or go to the web address for tinyurl.com/learning zone prize, all one word, you'll have a chance to win that prize. And so we're encouraging people to do that, to join us by looking at that survey and that game quiz that we've got. So moving on to the kind of nuts and bolts, we're going to ask people for now to turn off your videos. So anyone who still has their video on, we're going to ask you to turn that off at this point. At the end, we'll turn the video back on so we get a chance to see everyone. And I'm sorry, but because of the numbers involved, we are going to ask people to mute their microphones. I did turn off a few microphones while Mike was doing his introduction welcome. But if your microphone goes on, it may cause some sound problems. So please turn them off so that we don't have to do that. If you have questions or comments, pop it into the text chat. So like Thomas has just put in there, what's today's session covering? And Mike is going to be going into that in detail in just a moment about web video and his experiences in working with the BBC. We are recording now, so for people who have come in to the session, we want to make sure that you are aware that we are recording. At the end, what we'll do is a couple of minutes before the end, we will turn off the recording, so if there's any off-record comments or questions you have. And again, please don't forget our mystery prize. We're really looking forward to that. Oh, and here comes my fun bit, which is the video. And let's give it a go here. Great. Okay. Well, I hope that was inspirational. And here we go. A real quick plug for next month, February, is our March. Our March speaker for the will be on the 26th of March, and Issam Bab-Okan is coming in to share with us his secrets about all things Microsoft Office. So Teams to video and all kinds of different secrets. So please do join us next month on the 26th. Put that in your calendar, and you're going to be amazed by Basham. So welcome. This is Dr. Mike Howarth, who will be I'll be taking the PowerPoint slides down in just a moment. Formerly of the BBC. He's a fantastic presenter, and he's going to be sharing with you his experiences in working with the BBC. and as well as that he's going to be giving us some tips to success on using the video and various systems online. And so we'll be doing the questions throughout in the text chat. Pop that in, and then we'll have Q&A at the end as well. So Mike, without further ado, I am turning off my screen share now and passing it over to you.
Well, thanks very much. Hello, everybody. I hope you're all ready for a little bit of a roller coaster ride. What I hope to do is that Skip is going to pass me through questions that you want to ask. But somebody has already said, well, what's the subject? Right. Well, the subject is about operating both as a lecturer and as a student in this situation, in the COVID situation. And my suggestion is that there's nothing new about this. It's very unfortunate, of course, but the actual situation of working online in the old world was something that has gone back from 1935. In fact, one of the things, it began in Australia, where the children and on the sheep farms were regularly taught by radio by teachers from Melbourne and the big cities and so on. But this is my world, and was my world for 20 or 30 years before I moved on and started getting involved in multimedia based on the BBC Micro and turning radio broadcasts into multimedia. And then I've gone on to that and started using video, and you can see that I've got a walloping great broadcast camera over here. If I've got that right image, yeah, maybe that's a bit better. I'm actually talking to a great big camera, an ENG news camera there, and that's part of my current kit. But if we go back to all those days a long time ago, there were broadcasts for children from Radio 4 on one side of the building, on the right side there, but on the left-hand side, that is the school radio department, and it was from 1974 to, well, 1935 it began. 1974 I was there till 1996 when the BBC closed, in its wisdom, closed the whole unit down. If it was still going, there would be instantly broadcasts for 5 hours a day for all the children of Britain, covering a wide range of subjects. My particular thing was geography, and you would find me in a studio like this, and I would have a team of people surrounding me. There'd be the guy on the desk there, controlling everything. We'd have a newsreader, a presenter. I'm looking in my monitor over here. I've got a monitor, would you believe, just on the side there. We've got a monitor, we've got a guy who's presenting, we've got somebody visiting, and we've got a globe there at the front. This is a PR picture. And in fact, I spent most of my time not just making the sound. I would be going out on location and photographing as well with a still camera. And interestingly, I've just remind myself, a 24mm lens camera was the ultimate tool in my camera bag. Now, I had a whole team of people, or we were just part of a huge team of people. And you went through a huge sequence for every broadcast, including standing up in front of 40 people announcing what you were going to do. And we went through this discipline of preparing, talking to people. It didn't just happen. It was all highly organized. Now, it's my point, I think what happened in March was somebody said, well, we got this software, we can, you can go and do it yourself. It's dead easy to use, Zoom, Teams, dead easy to use. Okay, so you're having to work in a situation which was never intended and needs an awful lot of work and thought and preparation to go about it. I was working with people like this. Now, I don't know whether you recognize any of those names. I mean, most of you are far too young, but you might recognize Tony Robinson, now Sir Tony Robinson, Baldrick, you know, on Blackadder and so on. He is a seriously clever guy. He's no fool. And his skill is in using words and turning them from the spoken word or the written word to the spoken word. And that's just one example of these other people. I mean, Hazel O'Connor was the first female singer of the punk movement. She is, again, a really important, clever people. Paul Copley has been on TV a lot of the time, story writer. They're all doing all sorts of different jobs, but they came to the school to do school programs. And boy, you know, this is just, if I wanted to name drop, I could just do it all day. And they came because they wanted to do something for children. And they're indeed doing it now. It's quite a lot of the school radio broadcasts have been started again from nothing. Now, one of the strengths of working in radio, why working in radio rather than working in TV, is what's going on in this picture here. And I think that this is a skill that every lecturer and every student might think about. And it's the ability to project yourself in your mind to another situation. And maybe you can read those images there, but I'm making children's radio broadcasts involves a daily ritual of projecting ahead into an oral space to hear in your mind effective future training events in the classroom. So you're having to think and start to write down something that's going to happen in a learning situation. And I was, I used to dream. I used to stick my thumb in my mouth like that. When I was a kid, actually, I don't do it now. But I used to lie on my side and dream, and then I'd get up, and what a job to get up, dream a story, and then go out and film it, mind you. It's all been, or rather record it with audio equipment. But you would do that week in, week out for 20 years. And I think with that comes a lot of interesting skills. Of course, there's only about 15 or 20 of us in the country doing this, being fully in control of it. We had lots of other people, performers and so on. But this oral world, I just find fascinating. And I have absolutely no problem. As I say, you could just turn the camera off and maybe you'd hear my voice. And I can slow it down. I can talk at 80 beats a minute. I can start to get really excited and really, upset if I wanted to. I just can do that, mainly because I worked with people like this. And of course, I should say that we used to make these publications. And this is the ideal situation, much better than now, I believe, is where the presenter can talk to the camera, but the students have something they've got to look at and work on afterwards. And that will be the model of the school radio broadcast. You would talk for the radio broadcast were 19 minutes, 50 seconds long, mainly, because that was the attention span in a class, and it gave you another sort of 20 minutes for the teacher to do the follow-up work that was set in the teacher's notes. So anyway, I'd be working with this chap here, Timmy Mallett. We were doing a nature series here. I've got the sound man. I think I can draw on this. There's the sound man. That's my PA. And we'd have Timmy here. He's the fool, but actually he's no fool. I mean, he's got a very large house on the banks of the Thames, I should just point out. He's a very clever and intelligent guy, but he plays the fool very well. And he's just written a book, actually, which is, where are we? Can I show you there? The book has just come out now. And if you read that, you'll learn an awful lot about how to communicate with people and organize yourself. So I should say the other person there, is the brains, and that's Robin on the right, who was the naturalist and who was the expert. So I had two people, and they were all creating all of this work. An exciting outdoor sense of being there on the spot, and actually just with audio. And then inside will be activities in these notes, will be activities and things to do afterwards. So that gives you a general flavour. Another thing that you can look at this that we did was making slide tape work. And if I just show you here, on the YouTube somewhere, the BBC Radio Vision at UCL Institute of Education, you can see me walking around these filing cabinets. There's 1,000 equivalent of PowerPoints, the first PowerPoints. So I would go to Steelworks. Sometimes I'd do it all on my own, but I would actually photograph between interviewing. And so I'd photograph all the equipment, the steel and being made and everything like that, and then talk to the workmen and put it all together. And there'd be 36 slides. And the last thing I did was went to St. Lucia, and I made 12 programs in 10 days. And that nearly killed me. And that included using a helicopter and flying around and putting all the stories together. But PowerPoint, this is just the new stuff. It's been done for years in slide tape. And there's these booklets and photographs.
Mike, sorry to jump in, Mike. There is a question about the book. Could you hold it up again for us? Because I think there's a number of people that are interested in it, and they want to make sure they get the name of the book.
Right, I can give you that afterwards. It's Timmy Mallett, Utterly Brilliant, okay? And it's about his life's journey. And the way he's constructed this, and maybe we ought to maybe I don't want to go on too long on this myself. It'd be nice to have a conversation about the stories. I mean, the stories that come. I'm a storyteller, and this guy, I learned a lot of it from him. And I met him at Radio Oxford, doing children's programs. And he had, I'm just trying to think of it. I can't remember all the famous people that we used to hang out with there, but it's just gone live. But it's a very interesting book. It's religious in a way, because he's going on a journey to down to just forget the name of the place now. But anyway, it's really worth reading. Timmy Mallett, Utterly Brilliant, and he knows all these people. He's friendly with Professor Cox, Lorraine Kelly, Keith Lemon, and lots of other people. Okay, so where was I? Well, I like using lots of equipment, and it's quite interesting how the equipment has changed over the years. And I've used all of this. This was the original tape recorders here, great big chunky things. Another one, they're impossible. And then around about 1970s, these portable things came along, and then I moved on to these Nagras, which are stereo, and we had a radio. We actually had the first mobile phone, which was a great big brick attached into one of the channels in here with the microphones in there like that. And then finally, of course, we're on one of these tiny little phones, little digital Edirol. And then, so many programs are made these days just on an iPhone. And I mean, I'm just using an iPhone up here, looking down. That's an iPhone, and this is an SLR. And all of this kit is just, it's just flowing through. But it's not the important thing. The kit is not the important thing. The important thing, nothing is new. This is the original series of my broadcast done in 1935, out with Romani. And he went out in this caravan, but he never left the studios. And he had a horse pulling this thing, and it was coconuts. Well, it was coconuts. But that he survived for a while. 1943, And then BBC phoned him up one day and said, "I'm sorry, we're moving on now. Goodbye." So he lost his career really straight out of the blue. And things change all the time. I'm really just thinking now what else I could. Sorry, I should have just shown you. I'm learning to use this new kit, and I'm having problems just switching between two. So this is out with Romani. This is the original series of my radio series. I think I'd just like to kind of pause here and just ask some questions. Why am I going on about all of this stuff from the past? Is because I was taught as a teacher by the BBC to create things online, in the old terms of the radio. So please, somebody ask me what I've learned that you could use.
Okay, we can open up the text chat. If someone has a question or a comment for Mike, go ahead and pop that into the text chat. And then from there, what we can do is we can open up some microphones. Galina, at the moment, though, we are going to ask to have videos turned off, please, at this stage. But at the end, we'll put videos on for everyone. So if you have any questions, please start off with the text chat for us. And then if you like, we can, Mike, get the microphones turned on as well. So looking at the text chat, we see that there's a question from Manel. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. About using devices. Okay, what are the devices that we're using to change? So I'm thinking that the question is around the students, if they are presenting for like a lesson or an assessment, or if they're preparing like for a job interview, or maybe if they're in a situation where they're at work and the boss says, we'd like you to do a presentation for the client. What kind of devices? What would you suggest?
Well, the devices are one thing, and I could show you. I've only had this a week or two. Is this box here? Now, what's amazing, I've discovered that this 20 wide-angle lenses are really useful, because if you can go really close with them, and I'll show, and I'll explain why I think wide-angle lenses are really good. But this is a bit of kit that's being used by everybody. It's called an ATEM Blackmagic ATEM router, and this is what's giving me the ability to flip so quickly in one window. Now, I understand that this is possible in Teams, but this is a lot easier and quicker than having to share a screen each time you do something. But this is think about this, because you're looking at the future. You are looking at the future here with this kit. It costs 600. Actually, it doesn't. It costs £375, but the real one costs a lot. The bigger ones cost a bit more. But it's not about equipment, I don't think. I'd like you to just look at. Can you see me when I'm looking? I want you to look. Sorry. I want you to. You're looking from behind me. I'd like you to look at my setup. I'm working at what I call 45 degrees. I've kind of trademarked this name with it, and I've got here. This is a miniature ironing board. It's about 3 feet long, so that it could have been twice long. And it's just one of those magic things. I'm in a tiny 3 meter by 2 meter bedroom, and I should look up there actually, shouldn't I? I'm in a 3 by 2 bedroom, but I only discovered doing this because I thought I needed an extra desk space, so I borrowed my wife's ironing board, and the only way I could do it was to get it in sideways. So this is only by accident that this happened. But you see the angle I am in now. I am not. Most of you are flat, straight at the screen. We could talk about face to face, but it's not very nice actually being so close. And that's mainly, that often happens with the main teacher. Your lecturer is only 3 feet away from your face. And that
Mike, switch to the other cameras, so because we're seeing you from the back, but when you bring your face close like that, it's much scarier.
Yeah, I'm getting carried up. Yeah, I'm getting carried away. This is pretty new for me, doing all of this. But you see, if I'm the normal lecturers and students' position is round about here, isn't it? Something like that. Now, actually, I am only with this wide-angle lens. I'm only with that distance away. But if I go back like here a little bit, I've got distance. And not only have I got this distance, but I am at an angle. I'm at 45 degrees angle. And I've got and also I've got this desk, not right across the camera, like that, right like your laptop. I've got all this space. So I've got my iPad here. I could put it on an easel like there and give a lesson like that. I've got, but I do have this what's called depth. Now, if you're against a wall, I mean, I think we need to talk about the language. And I only learned about this when I was starting to be taught how to do news journalist camera work. The cameramen have got a whole language. They have something called headroom. Okay, that's the distance there, headroom. So you've got to have just headroom. You need to be in a position in the screen, and that is, I'm more or less here. Maybe if I went there, but I'm in the magic medium. You know, sort of print. You know, artists have this the magic triangle. I forget what you call it now, but this is the best place for an artist, or a best place to be. This area here is called by the cameraman thinking room. Now, this should be revelation. I mean, if it's not, I mean, it'd be wonderful, but this is a revelation that all of these have meaning. This is thinking space. If I'm a newsreader, I'm full in your face, I'm telling you the news. Here, we're having a conversation. We're having a conversation. And all of you who are watching, I mean, you see, the thing is that I have got another extra useful thing. This is the stool of online learning. Because when you've got this, you're using your whole body. Now, I'm not sure whether this...
Mike, sorry to jump in. We've got a couple other questions here. I just thought I'd throw those in to you. Basil says, what is your advice about trying to have success in your learning journey?
Right.
So you know, as a student, you know, we've got a number of people that are students in here, and they're you know, some of them, this is brand new for them, using these different technologies, you know, and as from a student point of view, you know, what would you say would be your advice about trying to have that successful learning journey?
Okay, well, look, I think it's time for a story. And I told you I'm a professional storyteller. I will go on telling stories. But at one time, I was brought up with my family. My family were builders, and I was brought up on a building site. And I knew everything about tractors, and I didn't know how to use dynamite. I could build, you know, I could lay bricks and things like that. But I couldn't write any essays at all. And I went to a lady, to an elderly teacher, to learn how to write, and I found myself in a situation like this, which is with a tutor reading out my essays, and I was able to get a good A level. And the purpose of this story is that what we are talking about is the way that you can improve your writing skills at this time, so that you can get into, you're able to communicate really well. And these students, I was having a taste of what I've lately understood is top quality tutor-based learning in Oxford and Cambridge. Okay, so you've got your tutor here, and she's saying these two are reading out parts of their essays. Same thing going on here, and the tutor is saying, now could you explain that just a little more clearly, please? Could you say it again? And they're speaking out aloud, and they are then going away and rewriting what they have been trying to explain. So they're flipping between from spoken English and written English. And guess what happens here? All right, sorry. Guess what happens here? Okay. Oh, sorry. Something's gone out of control here. There we go. Look what's happening here. Okay, this is a training session for journalist training. You're looking at £1,500 a day for this sort of thing. And there's lots of gear there, and the camera work is, all these cameras is my gear sort of thing. But there's a colleague of mine having a lesson with the chap on the right, who's a senior BBC training cameraman. But this is not the real point about it. What's happening an hour before then is that the chap on the left has come in with something he wants to say, and he's written this in what he thinks is spoken English, but it's not actually, because when you say it to the camera, it doesn't sound at all clear. And the rewriting, you're starting to talk simply in short sentences, a subject, a verb, and an object in one sentence, and just one idea per sentence. All right? Now then, if you're a student trying to write an essay, that is the best way to write a very clean, what I call clean English essay. And so we're going through the process of reading out loud or reading out in your mind and then putting it down on paper requires really editing. It requires changing the words. Normally, I tell you, my students are very, very clever. I have nearly all of them speak several languages. Now, if you're speaking several languages, you are often translating for the family, and you're speaking in some languages. It's quite normal to have the subject or even the verb at the end of the sentence. And so the process of rehearsing and putting ideas on paper, and writing simply and clearly, and usually taking the thing at the end of the sentence and putting it at the beginning and starting with a the, is the most important lesson that you could have, from me anyway.
Mike, that's some fantastic stuff. We have a couple other questions, if you don't mind me jumping in.
Sure.
Assad asked about this issue about visualizing. So as you're using words as a lecturer or in telling your story, and this can be the lecturer doing the lesson, or it could be the student answering questions or something from an essay that, how do we get that visualization that you're talking about?
Well, I think what's going on here, this is why we're trying to, thanks, a very good question. Thank you very much. I'll try, and we're jumping around a bit, and I'm trying to come up with all sorts of the ideas I'm really keen on. The process that's going on here is that we're not using formal language. We're in conversation, and I'm trying to almost be emotional. I'm using, I could use even more emotional language. And once you start to use that informal language and that emotional side of things, then you start to create a kind of visual language, just in sounds. So you might, the one thing I really didn't finish talking about is the use of these embodied metaphors. Well, I call them embodied metaphors. When I say I've got depth, that means that's an embodied metaphor. I have depth because I'm in this room. This wide-angle lens has given me all of this space. It's given me converging lines. Okay, you know, if I said another example of this embodied language is, you know, the future is in front of me, the past is behind. I'm looking up. I'm feeling up in the world. I'm looking down. These are a language which is related to where you are yourself in the world. And when you are visualizing in your mind, you are thinking of that sort of emotional, you know, I'm sick as a parrot. Apparently what happens, for example, I'm sick, okay? If you say I'm sick as a parrot, all the lights light up in your brain, apparently, because you can't think of a parrot. You can't, why should, you know, a parrot be sick? You know, a lot of humor comes out of all of this visual side as well, of things as well. I don't know whether I've explained that really.
No, that's really good because Juan was asking about audience engagement, and I know that he's actually doing some research with his PhD proposal along the lines of humor and trying to instill that in the kind of the learning journey. So you know, I think one of the areas that people are really interested in is making that engagement and involvement for the stakeholders. You know, and you're kind of pointing out some of those tips there.
I think so, yeah, absolutely. And in a way, it's wonderful to do a PhD on that subject. It's. I'm hoping. I would like you to go to the British Library and look at some of the BBC materials, or because it is being done. We did it all very, very successfully. The BBC didn't stop doing this because it was successful. Anyway, the person who was asking about a PhD, yeah, you need every single trick in the book. You know, I could have. I could turn to my props here. I could, the whole place. I tell you what. This, for example, looks a bit strange, possibly a bit naughty, but this comes from a tree in a place called Moshi in Tanzania, and this is where the fact that the local people used to chain up members of their own community to sell to the slaves. This is why they're holding on to each other like this. And I mean, I've got surrounded by all of these stories. These stories in objects. This guy, the guy who did this painting, was on TV about fishermen. There's something in a place called Cadgwith down in Cornwall, and I went down there and I met him with my children, and he did one of this painting. Can you see? It's absolutely beautiful. It's probably worth quite a lot of money on a bit of wood, and what he saw when he was out fishing, and he's been on TV just recently, so I'm using, you know, an example there. I'm using objects as story containers for stories. If I was good at poetry, I would do that. In fact, I tell you, I walked the dog this morning after I've been talking to some people in Amity University at 6 o'clock this morning. I went out, walked the dog. My neighbour around the corner, and the lovely son, was sitting down and having a cup of coffee, and I had a chat with him, and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm writing a book of poetry." And in fact, talking about slavery, he said, "I've just written something about slavery." And I live in a place in Hertfordshire, Hartford in Hertfordshire. Now, Hartford was made with slavery money. The big houses all around here were built on this, and there's some terrible stories to tell about this. I'm just saying. So I'm telling a story, another story inside a story, and that has some emotion, because why would you want to live in a nice place like this where everybody, anyway, it was the home of a anti-slavery movement too. Anyway, we're carrying on.
So Mike, sorry for jumping in, but so Madeline is asking a little bit more about the tech on there, because she's wondering, like for the online learning that we're doing, what would you say would be like key piece of kit that the students would want to be able to have? So I mean, we always are thinking so much about the video, but maybe you can tell us something about the relationship of the sound in the learning lesson as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's all. I realize that you get caught up in all of this technology, but I think from a student's point of view, it's the way they present themselves is actually in rehearsal, is in preparing in your mind, speaking in your mind, maybe writing it. I mean, it's even possible to I've got a little note here. It would be possible for me to pop this underneath the lens, and if I keep back a bit, I could read out everything I'm saying. I'm just doing it off the top of my head, but I could speak clearly, and I would rehearse. Basically, I would want the best way that a student can help themselves, I think, is to do what we professionals did. You would walk around, read out aloud, and it's absolutely amazing. This I do get my students to do this. I get them to stand up and take a different point of view. This is an embodied metaphor. Take a different point of view. Look down at their copy, and then you ask them to read it out loud from there, or you ask them to, what's the subject in the middle of a paragraph, and they go, "Ooh, really? You can't, I've got about 4 or 5 subjects in there," and I'm saying, write 5 paragraphs. But the idea of walking around, reading out aloud, preparing yourself, things don't just happen. Winston Churchill used to wander around the house with hardly anything on, apparently, or in the bathroom where the acoustic is good. These are professional tips, and I think it's, rather than the hardware, it's your voice.
Mike, I can't get that image of Winston Churchill out of my head now. But yes. Andrea is bringing us back to that kind of interactivity. If you were making a tip to a lecture about some kind of activity, have you used any tricks, or have you worked with any people in the past that you think had a really successful kind of activity?
Yeah. Well, I'm afraid I'm not a great one for games and online digital kit. I don't really use it because I'm just using myself as the way. I mean, I certainly am not very keen on the idea of the word engagement. Engagement is used by the military to grab people. The way of getting people to talk is probably, if I dare say, be a bit critical here, is that to have people's mics turned on, and to encourage the students to turn their cameras on. Forgive me for doing this, I'm being a bit naughty, but with my students, I get them I ask them to talk to me all the time. I ask them to set themselves at an angle, and I can actually arrange, certainly in Zoom, to have them so that they're like on me on the chat show couch. There, I don't know quite just how to describe it, but on screen you are like that, and of course you should be looking straight at the camera, which I'm trying to do all the time, not down at the little figures underneath. It's very confusing, all of that scene. I see it by doing it in personality, asking questions, maybe in gestures, in terms of asking interesting questions, open questions, and drawing people into the conversation.
Brilliant. That's some great stuff. We're getting a lot of discussion, a lot of comments from what you're saying, and I have to say that it's great to see some of the various academics putting in some experiences and examples. Sakia says in the first lesson with you, I've come to know how important it is to turn on the camera for all the students to see and feel like each other's body languages. You know, in the beginning when we started, we had the videos on, and it was great because it was a really kind of nice, soft way to launch the session rather than jump straight into PowerPoints and the lecture, so to speak. I wonder, Mike, if you mind if we now open up the videos, like you're saying, so that anyone who wants to use the video now can put that on. We're going to stay with the text for the moment, unless Mike, there's someone you want to hear.
Skip, is it possible? I mean, sorry to just step in here. As an experiment, I think everybody should put all their cameras on, and they should put all the audio on. But really, you've got to put your hand up if you want to ask me a question.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, so Trevor's got his video on straight away. Well done, Trevor.
I want to look at where people are positioning themselves too, how they look in terms of the camera, where they're sitting, and so on. I could make comments about that. Now, where the light is, and so on, and how you're using light. I see Esam's had a few lessons since I spoke to him. He's pulled himself together considerably.
By the way, Esam is our speaker for next week, so he's here to put a plug in, or next month rather. So Esam is here to put a plug in for his March talk.
I'll do the plug in. I mean, he is a serious professional. He is right in the business of FE teaching, whereas I am. My job is to support dissertation students, and I'm talking, mainly my time is actually turning around. I use my iPad here to give instant feedback videos to students. I'm marking up their text, or I'm speaking to them in Zoom where they are reading out their text, they're sharing their text, and I'm correcting or giving them pointers how to organize a few sentences. But anyway, look, we're all together now. I think I must just say that I'm not attempting to be an expert in any of this. I know that there's a lot of very clever lecturers all doing things in their own way, and I would not wish to decry any of your skills in any way whatsoever. However, I'm looking at the basic things. What happens when you have a proper light on. And the lady I'm talking to, Gerda, can I talk to you? Is that all right to make some comments?
Yes, of course. I would love it. Thank you.
So you've got a problem which I've only just discovered really quite recently, though I do have these lights up here. Where are we now? If I turn, no, that's not there. We have, I have these lights, but I can't see your eyes. I can't see your eyes because of the reflection of the screen. Now, this is a purely technical, don't take it personally. Okay, no. If you have a brighter light above and behind your screen, that light, it overcomes the light coming from your computer.
Oh, I see.
So and at the moment you switch the light on, but the light is behind you.
Yes.
So that really doesn't help. I mean, it's called a side light. I mean, I've got, that's quite interesting. The effect of that light. Let me just go to that one. No, this light over here does what your light is doing. It's making you stand out from the background. Okay, so you're standing out. you stand out for the student from the background. But if you have this light up here, then they'd see your eyes. And I think it's very important that a student sees your eyes, because then you can use your eyes.
Yes.
And of course, if you're looking at I'm looking at you down there, but I need to be. I've got a big arrow. I've got a great big arrow. See, that's my. Sorry, I'll just show you my arrow. Sorry, I'm still learning how to use this. This is my arrow. This is a reminder that I've got to keep looking at the lens, because if you're in a studio, the cameraman is going to make sure that the lens is right on you, but you've got to do all this work yourself. So lighting is important. That's fine. Let's look at
Mike. Sorry to jump in. I hate to say this, but believe it or not, we're out of time, and there's so many comments and questions. On the text chat. If you don't mind, what I'm going to suggest that we do is like last time that we did when we had Tara last month. Is we're going to kind of tie everything up together here to finish, and then with everyone's permission, we're going to have a little after event party. Now that means that Mike won't be presenting and under pressure and everything, but we can all just kind of have an open discussion, and we won't record it. It'll be off recording. And so, it's a little bit more casual. If you have a drink or a coffee or a glass of wine or whatever, this is a part of our after event party. So, you're welcome to do that. And then, so if we have any other questions and comments in the text, we'll try to get that. There was an interesting comment there from Stacy about theory, Mike, that, and I know you're focusing on the practical today. But we can always follow up on some of the theory as well. So if everyone doesn't mind, what I'm going to do, Mike, is I'm going to share my screen for the last bit here to close up, and here we go. So everyone should be able to see the PowerPoint now. Yes. And we would like to just kind of close off the formal part of today's brilliant Learning Zone session from Dr. Mike Howarth. If you want to put some thanks or comments in the text chat, or raise your hands for applause, we really appreciate that. We want to say thank you so much. Every time we get together, Mike, I feel like I've learned something new and a different perspective, even on an old story that I've heard several times.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anthony.
The good news is we have the QR code here. Get your phones out, scan it, or go to tinyurl.com/learningzoneprize, all one word, and you'll have a chance to win the mystery prize. Like our winner from last month is Ines, who is one of our students, and we want to say well done, congratulations for winning the mystery prize. It's in the post. It's being sent from our marketing team. We want to thank them for their help and support and making this a successful event. We really do appreciate that. And please do take a moment to do that quiz, and we're going to now stop the screen share and go back to the video and say that we're now officially finished with the Learning Zone for this month, and look forward to seeing everyone for next month. And of course, we're more than happy to enjoy any wisdom that we can get next month from Isam and with his presentation. Keep popping in comments and text, but in the meantime, everyone is welcome to join us right now for the after event party. So thank you all very much. It's brilliant to to have you here.